Hey everybody, Rob here at eTrailer.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Aries RidgeStep running boards with custom installation kit on our 2018 F-250. Now here's what our Aries steps are going to look like once we have them installed. I really like them because they're a really heavy duty option for somebody that's going to be using their truck mainly for work, or if they just really need a rugged looking step that's going to hold up. Now, whether you are going to be using it for work or if you're just using it for an easier way to get in, having that step is going to make it a lot easier to get in and out of your truck. Because a lot of people have noticed that these new trucks are getting taller and taller, and it's definitely a lot harder to get your foot all the way up there without having that step. Now, what I think really is going to set these steps apart opposed to a lot of other running boards and steps is the fact that these are 100% made out of steel. There's not a single piece of plastic on there, so we're not going to have to worry about it becoming brittle, fading over time, or cracking. What else is really nice and what I like is that the tread here is actually stamped directly into the board itself. It's not a separate piece of plastic that we have to bolt on and we have to worry about replacing down the line. It's one piece, and these holes here are going to allow dirt, debris, water, all of that to run through and drain out, so we have a nice, solid, secure place to put our foot and make sure we have traction. Now on top of that, these are going to be really deep running boards. Now what I mean by that is that we're going to have 6.5 inches from the end of the board to the back. So we are actually going to be able to use them. A lot of times you may get maybe a 3-inch running board, but by the time it sits so close to the body, you really can't even use that much of it to get your foot on there, so you're kind of teetering on your toes. But this has plenty of space. Once you get the door open, there's plenty of room to get your whole foot on there, make sure you have a secure grip, and then work your way in or out of the truck. Now obviously over time, especially if you're using your truck like a work truck, you got a lot of dirt, mud, rocks, or whatever, your running boards may get a little dirty, but the nice thing is they have that really thick black powder coat finish, and it's a textured finish, so it hides dirt really well and scratches, and it's going to make sure that it protects it and keeps it from rusting as well. Now the Aries RidgeSteps are going to be cab length running boards. Here we have a standard cab truck. However, even if you have a crew cab truck, the boards are going to run from the front of the cab all the way to the back, and they're going to stop there. They're not going to continue onto the wheel well. Now these running boards are extremely heavy duty. They actually have a 500-pound weight capacity, and I really can't think of too much of a time, especially in a standard cab truck, that you would need to have a 500-pound weight capacity on your running boards, but it is really nice to have that extra peace of mind knowing that they're going to have extra stability for you and that they're going to last a really long time. Now the installation for our boards is a very straightforward process. There's no drilling involved at all, and it's going to come with all the necessary hardware to get it installed. The nice thing about the Aries mounting brackets is that if you later on down the road decide you want to switch out your boards, you can actually switch out the boards without having to pick up the brackets. Now you can find all those fits here at eTrailer.com. Not only are the boards going to serve a functional purpose of us getting in and out of the truck easier, but they're also going to allow us to make our truck look the way we want and make it our own. These have a really rugged look, so if you have a rugged truck and you want to add some of that off-road look to them, I think these are a great choice. To begin our installation, we want to grab one of the brackets out of our kit. Now we have our driver's side installed already, but we'll go ahead and do the passenger side together. Now you want to move right underneath the outside section of your truck. And we're going to be right here at the front passenger side, and you'll notice that we're going to have 3 threaded posts or studs that are coming off the bottom of the pinch weld here. You want to grab one of our brackets, and you'll notice that these holes are going to line up with those studs. But before we put the bracket in place, you want to grab 3 of those nylon washers, and we're going to slide them over the posts. Now our truck's pretty dirty, so I'm just going to make sure there's no extreme amount of mud caked up around there, so the washer will sit nice and flush against there. Now these washers are just going to prevent any kind of corrosion from building up from the 2 dissimilar metals touching each other. So you want to make sure you put those in place. Then we'll just take our bracket, line it up over the studs, and we'll take a silver flat washer. We're going to go over each one of the studs. We want to grab a lock nut out of our kit. And for now, we just want to get those hand tight so the bracket will hold itself up there and we don't have to worry about it falling down. But we do want to kind of leave these a little loose for now. So just get them hand tight, make sure they're on there, bracket's not going to fall. Now if we move back towards the back of our truck, right at the back of the cab, we're going to have another set of 3 studs, and our rear bracket is going to be exactly the same and use the exact same hardware to get installed. So we'll go ahead and clean this off, put our washers, flat washers and lock nuts in place. Now at this point we can grab our board. Now if we flip it over and look on the bottom, you're going to notice that we have this track running down the middle here. What we want to do is we want to grab these C brackets, kind of shaped like a C. You'll notice that they're going to have weld nuts on one side. Those weld nuts need to be facing towards the top of the board. So when we put them in place, we want to see the bottom of them. So let's come to the end of either end of the channel. We're just going to slide them in place. And you want to make sure that you put 2 brackets in, 1 for each frame bracket that we installed. Just get those lined up, just slide them in there. It really doesn't matter where they are right now because we're going to take our board and you want to carefully rest it on the brackets, just loosely for now. And then what we can do is we can run those channels over to where they line up with the bracket, then we'll get ready to put some hardware in there. So just want to slide these over, they line up, and we can get bolts all the way through the frame bracket into that channel. I want to grab one of the M8 bolts and one of the M8 lock washers and a flat washer. We're going to come up from underneath, and you just want to get these loosely started, a couple threads, just so you know that they're engaged and they're not going to cross thread, but we don't want to tighten them up yet because we want to make sure we get our board centered and positioned the way we want them. So we'll repeat that process for the remaining holes, and then we can make any kind of adjustments that we need to and tighten everything up. Now when you go to adjust your boards, what I like to do is right at the bottom back side of the channel here, it kind of stops. So that's a good reference point. So I'm going to slide my boards all the way forward to that inner bracket is even with this bracket. That's how I set the other side up, so I know at least front to back my boards will be nice and centered. And then I want as much foot space on my board usable as possible, so I'm going to grab my board and slide it all the way out on those brackets, and then double check my front to back, make sure that this is lined up underneath and everything's sitting how we want. Then we can grab a 13mm socket and we can start snugging up all of our hardware. Now the 13mm socket is going to tighten up the bolts on the bottom of the board as well as the brackets going into the frame. Once you have all your bolts tightened down, you can go ahead and move to the other side and repeat that entire process so we can get the driver's side boards in place. But once you have that done, that'll finish up your installation and your look at the Aries RidgeStep on our 2018 Ford F-250.